President Trump in Washington today after saying the deal with Iran could become official as soon as this weekend, despite the conflicting terms coming from both sides. Pakistan's prime minister says that finalized deal is likely expected within the next 24 hours. So we're watching this all very closely. Our senior national correspondent, Rich Edson, is live for us at the White House. Hi, Rich.
Hi, good afternoon, Aisha. Well, the officials in the United States and in Tehran are saying that they are close to an agreement. Pakistan is mediating discussions between the two countries. Its prime minister posted this morning, quote, "With finalization likely expected in the next 24 hours, Pakistan is preparing for the electronic signing of the peace deal immediately after, followed by technical level talks next week." Though Iran's foreign minister says, hang on, that the US and Iran could sign a deal in the coming days, but it won't be by tomorrow. If they do, an Iranian foreign ministry spokesperson says Iran would discuss its nuclear program with the US during a 60-day negotiating window, and that Iran wants to focus on ending the conflict on all fronts. That includes Israeli fighting in Lebanon. Major details of this emerging ceasefire are still unclear. This morning, a senior administration official told reporters that Iran will open the Strait of Hormuz and charge no tolls, and the U.S. will lift its blockade of Iranian ports. Then they'll work on removing mines from the strait. Officials have said this pending deal would begin the process of removing Iran's highly enriched uranium from the country, and if Iran hits certain performance metrics, it could receive access to billions in frozen assets. Vice President J.D. Vance says Iran will receive no funds or cash for just signing a deal. They'd have to meet their obligations before seeing economic benefits. In the meantime, the U.S. military says it is still blockading its part of the Strait of Hormuz into Iranian ports, and that the State Department says Secretary of State Marco Rubio has warned the Indian government of trying to run ships through the Strait of Hormuz to try to import Iranian oil. Aisha?
Okay, Rich Edson with an update from the White House. Rich, thank you. For more, let's bring in the big weekend co-host, Marine Reservist Staff Sergeant Joey Jones. Still awesome to say that out loud, that you're a Marine Reservist again. So congratulations to you, Joey. First, on whether or not we can get to a deal. Of course, things are moving fast. We keep getting these updates from the different negotiators. So the Pakistan prime minister says finalization could happen in the next 24 hours. We just heard from the Iranian side. They're saying it's not going to happen this weekend. And U.S. forces apparently shot down some Iranian drones that were headed towards the strait. So take a look at this moment for us and give us your thoughts on where we stand right now. Are we close to a deal?
I think we're always close to a deal. We've been trying to humble the folks that lead Iran with military might or a blockade for a few weeks, a few months now. And I think every time President Trump says, hey, throw a little more bombs their way, our perspective is we get a little closer, and perhaps this time that worked. But, you know, this deal is signing a piece of paper. It's saying, listen, these are the promises you're making, these are promises we're making, and because we signed this piece of paper, we can back off, relieve the tensions for a minute, maybe pull some of our troops out of the region. It doesn't exactly mean Iran is abiding by it. It doesn't mean that that next step will happen, and what's our contingency for that? And that's part of the planning too. You know, the trust but verify kind of mentality. This is probably even less assured than that. But if you look at the assurances that a senior White House official put out yesterday on a call, you're looking at things like assuring that the nuclear material is destroyed or removed. And the question and answer on that basically sounds like that we're going to play a direct role. I don't know if that means that Americans will be boot on the ground or foot on the ground to do that, but have a direct role in how it's done, oversee it, ensure that it happened. I think that's been a huge sticking point this entire time. If we go full-fledged war, then how do we protect getting ourselves in there to remove that material? I'd much rather want to be invited in there with the assurance of maybe we'll release some sanctions once we do. And I think that's kind of the strategy here, is to, if we step foot on Iranian soil, it's because they invited us there with some sort of carrot at the end of that bargain for them. And I think that's really what the Trump administration is trying to get to.
Well, let's talk about what might be in this deal, because we haven't seen it yet. It's still being worked out. I think they're nearly there, is what the White House is saying. 24 hours ago was a little bit confusing because both sides had put out wildly different lists of things that might be in this deal. So I want to go through what the Iranians put out first, because we were all kind of stunned reading some of this stuff. They thought they were getting a suspension of oil sanctions before the final deal is made. That sounds outrageous. 60 days of negotiations to reach final deal on nuclear issues. They put a deadline in there. Half of frozen funds would be released up front, Joey. That's what the Iranians thought. And then the Strait reopens with Iranian arrangements. So the White House immediately came out and said, not so fast. And they put out their own list. They said the nuclear material will be destroyed. The nuclear program will be dismantled. The Iranians will perform on terms for frozen funds to be released. So it's a performance-based deal. The Strait of Hormuz would have to reopen, and no Iran funding of terrorist groups anymore. You know, the vice president really has come out pretty hard saying that they're not getting any amount of cash until they meet their obligations. How do we hold them accountable?
Well, and that's the part that we may debate for the next few months if fighting completely stops, is what does that mean, meet their obligation? Does that mean something akin to the JCPOA where, you know, there's kind of this quasi-inspection but not really? Or does that mean we have an office in Tehran or you know, in Iran somewhere that oversees this, you know, maybe through some coalition? And I think there's a lot of variance there, and that's why there are a lot more questions. It's easy to say, if you're Iran, hey, yeah, come on in and we'll give you this, but you're not going to know about that. But it did seem like, you know, from the White House, they believe they know where all the nuclear material is, if it's Pickaxe Mountain or one of the places that was bombed in Midnight Hammer.
Under all the rubble.
Yeah, they feel like they really know where it all is. So I feel like if there's an actual deal here, they're specifically saying, we want access to this, we want access to that, we want eyes on this, we want to see this material removed. And maybe Iran makes the calculation that it's easier to be a dictator within your borders than without, than beyond. I'm not sure.
You know, the other question I hear a lot from Americans is, who the hell are we talking to over there? I mean, we don't even know who survived all of this. There are so many different competing minds. This is what Senator John Kennedy, you know, he has a way with words. This is how he put it, who we're dealing with.
You're dealing with Charlie Manson here. Could they say, well, let's have another ceasefire, which was never a ceasefire, and negotiate for 120 days? That's meaningless. They're crazy as a bedbug. They're religious zealots. They think they're on a mission from God. And it's very hard to deal with people like that.
They're crazy as bedbugs, Joey. That's how the senator put it. You know, strikes are always going to be on the table, according to this administration. And there was a lot of talk about Kurg Island, taking that over. Of course, that's where all the Iranian crude sits. It's a very important island to them. But people have concerns about putting potentially boots on the ground. Would that require boots on the ground? Wouldn't we just be sitting ducks?
Yeah, it's my belief that taking Kurg Island is a lot easier than holding Kurg Island.
Okay.
We could take Kurg Island from the air, seize the place, but then to hold it, now you have to defend it, and now it's just resource heavy is what it is.
Right.
Plus, taking it doesn't mean that you clear the littoral space around it, so it could be mined and things like that. You could have boots on Kurg Island with no way of, through the water, resupplying them or supporting them. So it'd be a weeks-long operation. You could take it in a day, but it'd take weeks to get to a place where you truly control it. And it also would be resource heavy. Do we lose a plane? Do we lose a ship? Do we lose lives? And all of those are part of the calculus. That's why this diplomacy that President Trump has pushed for the last month, that a lot of people, even the senator just then, you know, saying, well, it's not really a ceasefire. And it's like, well, we stopped offensively attacking them, and they stopped their version of these fast boats. And so that was the premise of the ceasefire. It doesn't mean that no rounds were shot and no actions were taken, but it's because it's that delicate, and Iran is that hard to communicate and understand, because like you said, they may have multiple folks that think they're in charge or want to be in charge. I think that in some instances can be a part of the calculus, but in this instance, it's just made it more difficult.
Okay. Joey Jones, I always learn something new whenever you come on. We are so lucky to have you and your brilliant insight.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.